There we go. I got that part.
Okay.
So under Mr. Alvin's picture, I see 3 little dots. Then you go ahead and click
Okay.
Echo Host and then add Spotlight.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Here,
Yeah.
you thought all I did was talk.
Well, I did. I don't see the spotlight piece of it, but
And again, about my computer is down at the moment. You know how computers are; they always pick that fun time to do things like. So maybe I won't focus. This is updated. So I am talking on my phone, but
okay. I see make post, but that's it.
So how did you get into real estate? How long have you been in the real estate market, and then what brought you into affordable housing? Tell us a little bit about your background. Oops, I think you're muted.
There we go.
There we go.
All I've done since high school is real estate. So, and that's been a long time ago. But it sounds great. I started cutting grass. That wasn't that fun, but that's still real estate, right?
Right.
And I know some landscapers that make millions a year. So don't discount the landscaping. But anyway, I wasn't a landscaper. I was just cutting grass. But anyway, I learned how to paint houses. That was my second job, where I was a painter's helper. And we were painting 15 and 20,000 square foot houses back in 82, 83. And so I learned how to finish things very well. You know, you take a piece of sheetrock and you walk out and it looks like a painting. We learned how to finish cabinets and do all those things really well. And so from that, about the mid 80s or so, interest rates started doing some crazy things.
Yeah.
Double digit, high 17, 18, 20% interest rates. Well, long story short, I went from a painter's helper to a paint contractor to a general contractor, because I couldn't paint your house if you had wood hanging off of it. So I began to fix it. Then I think in about 1996, my construction background led me into the mortgage business. And I learned how to do second mortgages, and we were doing second mortgages in people's homes for renovations and things like that. And so I did a really big mortgage company from 96 until about 2007. 2008, I met this guy that had 16,000 units of apartments, and I knew he had what I needed. And I bugged him for a year. He met me one time. He flew into Dallas, and this guy walked into the office, and I went, whoa, this guy is so good looking. I mean, he was like, all the air went out of the room. I mean, he was just really that charismatic. And I just needed to be with him. My mortgage career at that time was going sideways, 2007 and 8. Mm-hmm. And I needed something different. And I had started a nonprofit about 7 or 8 years before to do some work around the Dollar Home program that HUD used to have. And he said, Alvin, what you want to do with your nonprofit is really cute. I said, oh, it's cute. He said, if you want to figure out what you can really do with a nonprofit, I'll help you. And so he gave me some assignments every week for 3 weeks. And of course, I didn't get them right. And he quit answering my calls after 3 weeks. And I called every week for 49 weeks after that, every Wednesday. And about a year later, 49 weeks later, he picked up the phone and said, Alvin Johnson, I am so tired of you calling me. If you want to know what I do, come up to my office. I'll put you up for 30 days. And I did that. I got a suitcase, made it March the 1st in Amarillo, Texas, with the biggest suitcase I could find. And I was not planning on leaving. And after 30 days were up, that was when I was supposed to go home. He said, well, what are you gonna do now? I said, well, I'm not going home unless you send me. So I hung out another year. And after that year, April 1st, 13 months to the day I got there, he died in a car wreck.
Oh no.
And I became, by proxy, I guess, the president of this foundation of 16 units. I guess today it'd be worth close to $2 billion, if not more. And we began to unwind that thing into it was a chapter 11 liquidating bankruptcy. So we restructured all the debt and then all the assets went away. And I sat around the table for 2 years with some of the smartest attorneys in the world. We had 66 properties, about 180 companies that owned all of these properties through partnerships and LPs and et cetera. And a lot of institutional investors had bought tax credits around these developments. So we had to unwind all of those credits, and it was a job. And I learned so much that I knew that nobody would hire me after that. So when that tenure was up, the bankruptcy was confirmed, I was fired. And this particular entity that I'm the president of now, Hope Housing Foundation, was a support organization of that entity. And so the board of that company then said, Alvin, if you want this company, man, get you a board of directors and everybody here is out. So they threw up their hands, and it didn't have any money, but there was a resume around affordable housing, and I figured I could do something with it. So in 2010, I think 2011, January 1st, I was hired as the president of this organization. And we said, we're going to go buy some apartments one at a time, change the world. We want 20,000 units. I didn't want 20,000 back then, but today I do. I think I do. And so for the last 11, 12 years, we've been over here figuring out how to buy units, how to put together public-private partnerships, how to be very creative in a world where if you don't have millions of dollars to buy a multi-million-dollar asset, how do you do that? Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out the benefit of really who I wanted to be in this business, what I wanted to do in this business. Do I really want to do affordable housing? Do I want to do market rate housing? Do I want to be that guy? So all of those thoughts have gone through my head over the last 12 years. And I finally settled on the fact that I am a multifamily affordable workforce housing developer. And I'm excited.
That's a crazy story, and I love it. The great tenacity that you have is amazing. To be able to pick up that phone and call for 49 weeks to get your foot in the door again, right? Who would do that? Sir. So that's amazing. Hats off to you, sir. And what a relationship it built. And unfortunately, it didn't the way you thought it was going to, but it still put you in contact with some amazing people.
You did that. It gave me a great opportunity. I could not have learned what I learned. I couldn't have gone to college to learn that in 2 years. The unwinding of a deal. So I learned more, they say more thought. And I learned more unwinding this organization than ever I could have learned building it. Because you don't know what you don't know when you're building it. But when you're unwinding something, you go, wonder why he did that. Oh, I that. And so I found myself so many times in the same positions of going, what would my friend do? What did he do in this situation? And those mentor moments you just can't take back. And so he planted some stuff in me that hopefully I've been able to impart into others, which is why I love to do these kind of Zoom calls and share what I have. And because there's so much out here, there's so much that we can all do. I like to call it group economics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Zig Ziglar said it best, man, the more people you help get what they want, the easier it is for you to have what you want.
The group that Cindy and I have built is full of people with that mentality. We are of people who want to help each other out, and we all raise the tide so all of our boats float.
Right.
So what kind of housing are you doing now? Is it all in Dallas, Texas market, or is it all over the US? How's that? What's that look like today?
Today, we have units on the Texas coast down by Corpus Christi, Port Lavaca. In that area, we have units in Dallas. We have units on the West Bank of New Orleans. And our 3 developments that we are starting this year, maybe 4. The first one is in Kaukauna, Wisconsin, 10 miles from Green Bay.
All right.
The second one is here in Princeton, Texas, just east of McKinney. The third one is in Anna, Texas, which is just east of Princeton. And we've got a fourth one in Mansfield, Texas, that I don't know if I'm going to sell it or if I don't know what we're going to do with that one yet. My plate's kind of full with those 3 big ones. Plus, we've got 452 units that we're going to close on next month it's an acquisition rehab from one of our own companies. So we're buying it from one of our own entities, recapping it and doing some rehab. And so that's a little trick that when you own something like that, a lot of times the best way to get more money out of it is to reposition it and you own it yourself. And you can bring in new partners and change out partners and get the LTV up a lot higher than you can get on a refi. And so all kind of creative things we do over here.
So you learn all sorts of creative ways once you're inside the deals, right? So once you are inside the process, inside the companies, you see how they work, you see how the rules are. So how are you acquiring those properties? So that one came from internal. Are your other developments, those are ground up developments?
They are. Yes, sir. Yeah. 185 units, 400 units, 204 units, and 91 units.
Fantastic.
So within the next 90 days, probably about 200 million in construction starting, including our rehab. And then the fourth one that will start, be another 40 million, and that's the one in Mansfield. I don't know if we're gonna, like I said, I don't know if we're gonna sell it or not. But the hardest part about this, I think 4 years ago, I decided I didn't want to buy any more assets because prices were just going through the roof.
Yeah.
And I got to pay 130,000, 140 a unit and spend 15 on it. I can go spend 180 and build a new one and not have to touch it for 10 years or for at least 5. So we started down that path and we went out and bought all this dirt and started all this entitlement work. And then last June, the interest rate started going up.
Yeah.
And leverage started coming down. And so one of the things that I have had to, because I have not had a checkbook big enough to stand on, is I had to figure out how to be creative in times where I'm not going to say where there's no money, but where there is a deficient amount of money needed for what you need to get done.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin is if I'm going to do that and I need to partner with other people to make that happen with group economics, how can I protect the people that I'm partnering with to the best of our ability?
Absolutely.
And to get them the highest returns. So the development is really easy to do that because, you're building at a 30%, we got a 30% uptick from the day of completion, 25% just depending on the day of the week with the interest rates and the cost of materials. But I'll give you, for instance, our deal in Princeton, Texas, it started out at 200 units. It was fully entitled for 400. I think we paid $7.5 million for the dirt. So I partnered with some people to buy the dirt. We did a $3 million down loan on that. And so I've been paying, interest on that and paying interest on my loan for about 1.5 years. That's a lot of interest.
A lot of carrying costs, yeah.
But what we did, we started with this design to build 200 units. And then when the rates went up and LTCs came down, I found myself with a big gap because we were going to do it in 2 phases. Well, the land had to be bought for phase 2 already. The water service had to go all the way around the whole property, and all the sanitary sewer plus 2 detention ponds had to be complete. So you got $6 million worth of improvements on a piece of dirt that we weren't going to use for 3 or 4 years, which means I had to have a capital call of about 10 million on my partners that have already put in 5 million. Yeah, and water them down to nothing, or figure out how to build 400 units. So we did.
Interesting phone call to make. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to make that call, Shane. And that's where the level of commitment to our craft kicks in, like me calling for 49 weeks.
Yep.
Because any other time I could have just said, hey, man, we can't get this done. Either y'all can put up some money or we're going to just sell this or whatever, but can't get it done. Sorry, y'all lost some money. I'll lose some money, but that's not the way we handle business. So we went back to the drawing board. We already had phase 1 of those apartments, 200 of them drawn out. And I went back to the contractor and said, hey, we need to make some changes. I can't double the price of phase 1, but I need to build 400 units and this is where I need to be. So we spent another 4 months coming up with plans and designs to finish out the other half of that. And we came close. And so this is the creative side this is the message that I am working on today. When we talk about affordable housing, there's a negative connotation that goes with that. Oh my God, here come those people. Well, I love to explain this way. When we're talking about those people, all of our new build apartments are in areas that have an area median income of above $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So when we're focused on affordable housing, our parameters for those set-asides are 60 to 80% of that AMI.
Yeah.
So you got an $80,000 AMI, 80% of that is $64,000. That's pretty good rent. That's pretty good tenant. They make $60,000 a year. HUD's rule is that they can pay 30% of their income towards rent. $60,000, they can pay $20,000 in rent, about $1,850 a month. We can build an apartment with average rents of $1,850 a month. Any market, except California, New York, Florida, stuff like that. Maybe Florida. But when you get into the neighborhoods where the area median income is $50,000 or $40,000, and you have to accommodate that 80% tenant or that 60% tenant, that's where you wind up with having to do Section 8 vouchers for payment. It's not a bad thing, but if you want to talk about those people, some people with Section 8 vouchers give that negative connotation. But you also have some people in that $60,000 bracket that literally can have a Section 8 voucher as well, because they can only pay $1,850 a rent. What if they've got a 3-bedroom, they need a 3-bedroom unit and it's $2,300 a month? They can't afford. So they can go to the housing authority and get a housing voucher to make up the difference for their rent. So you got a police officer with a Section 8 voucher. Yes.
Right.
And so there was a story that this lady told me. There's a neighborhood here in Frisco called Stonebriar. The houses in that neighborhood range from 3,000 to 15,000 square feet. They start at $1 million and go up to 15 million in that neighborhood. She could not believe that they had built some apartments across the street from this beautiful neighborhood for those people. And I went, hold on, tell me about those people. Tell me about those people. She said, well, those low-income people, they got Section 8 vouchers, and I just can't believe that they would put that across the street and devalue those homes. I said, well, let me talk to you about those people. The area median income in Frisco is $125,000 a year.
Yeah.
That 80% AMI, those people make $100,000. They driving big Mercedes and everything, living in Section 8 units. And when I said that, this lady started boohoo crying. And I said, what are you crying for? You act like I hit you in the face or something. And she was literally, blowing stuff out her face. She said, well, I live in that neighborhood. And when I got a divorce, my husband put me out, and me and my daughter had to go live in an extended stay for a while. And after that extended stay, I moved into the townhomes right next door to those apartments. I said, why are you crying? She said, well, the lady told me when I moved in that the only reason I could live there was because I didn't make over $100,000. I said, oh, you were one of those people you were talking about. And at that moment, she lost it because she negatively talking about low-income people with Section 8 vouchers until she realized that because she made less than 100,000, she was one of them in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So anytime I go into a city council meeting to get properties approved for affordable workforce housing, I tell that story because most of the people that are voting to disallow the affordable housing, or half the people in the audience that are screaming about those people, are those people.
Right. They've
So,
been there. They still there. Their kids need to be there. You know, so many of these communities and housing markets, you know, Frisco's one of them, but Rockwall is one of them. Yeah, where I used to live outside of Dallas. The building restrictions are such that there's no such thing as a entry-level home anymore.
nope.
You know, you can't be just out of high school or college and your first home is $350, $450. I mean, it doesn't make sense. There's no place for those people to start off their life. They needed some stepping stones, and that's where I see you coming in. You've realized that, and
Yeah, we have.
yeah,
And so now that we have a business model that works, it's workforce housing. Anything above $75,000 a year AMI is our target market. Because of that, here in Texas now we have the ability to partner with local housing authorities that save us on property taxes. So our deal in Princeton, Texas, partnering with the housing authority will save us about $2 million a year in property taxes.
Really?
Well, the HOA wants, the housing authority wants 25% of the savings. So we'll save $1.5 million that goes directly to the bottom line because we don't have to pay property taxes, simply because we're providing workforce housing and we're financing these with tax exempt bonds. Now, let me give you the other.
Okay.
So when we are doing these with these bonds, so we're 501c3. The 501c3 allows us to partner with the government entities and get and allows us to use 501c3 bonds for the creation of this affordable housing. It's very similar to a municipal bond that the cities use for schools, for stadiums, for airports, and all of that stuff. Same type of bond, except this one has a tag on it for affordable or workforce housing. The beauty of using those bonds for us when we are putting together a capital stack. Our deal in Kaukauna, Wisconsin, and I think I can share with, I think I can. We put together this deal. It's a total capital stack of $55 million. So it's 185 units. Our total construction cost is $39 million. You say, well, where's the other $14 million?
Yeah.
Good question.
Can I give him share screen? Shane, how do I do that?
I got you. Hang on.
Okay, I'm not gonna touch anything.
So the other, 38 million construction costs, 40 million with contingency. So we got 15 million in other dollars somewhere. Those other dollars are used to pay the interest on the bonds from day one and stack all of our capital accounts so that once it's completed, we've got operating debt service reserves, we've got repair replacement reserves, all of that's already in the bank. The downside to doing this with the bonds is the day the bonds are sold, we start paying interest on the whole capital stack from day one. So it's not paid, interest is not paid on the amount drawn because the whole amount is drawn from day one. That's why but the beauty of that is that all of our investor partners, if we need to raise, well, that Dylan Kakana, they said, Alvin, you need 10% equity, so you need to go out and raise $5 million. Okay. How can I do that in Wisconsin? I live in Texas, blah, blah, blah. So I started doing some research. Not how can I do that, but if you remember, I said one of my key things that we have to do is to make our investor partners feel as comfortable as possible putting their money with us.
Mhm.
So the way we crafted this around using the 501c3 bonds is that all of our investor partners earn money totally exempt from income. So that means you are a bond holder, you are a debt holder, you're not a LP in our deals. You actually become part of the capital stack. So how does that work? So we got $55 million in bonds allocated. Our placement agent will sell 50 of those bonds, 50 million of those bonds the day of closing and put our $5 million into the deal. You got $5 million in bonds outstanding. We use all the money to build it, get it going, get it stabilized, and somewhere within a 3 to 5 year window, depending on market interest rates, blah, 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 the agent will take those bonds then and go sell those bonds on the market. Those bonds can be sold because the property's age, 101, 102, 103, 105, marketable. And that allows us to pay our investors pretty much interest rate they want on their money, 10, 12, 13% on their money. And they get it exempt from income tax because these bonds are tagged for workforce and affordable housing. And so that is a beautiful caveat for partnering with people and institutions that want to write a larger check because they could literally buy all the bonds. They could buy all the 55 million worth of bonds and hold them for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years and gain all of that interest exempt from income tax. And then let our placement agent go sell the bonds. So I love talking about this because, we're all looking for something. Yeah. We're all looking for partners. We're all looking for information. We're all looking for ways that we can be a part of deals. And what I'm looking for is an institutional investor that wants to write $5 to $50 million checks. Insurance company, anybody. Somebody knows somebody and somebody called me. And we've got institutional style investments that anybody can play in that arena. But I'm not going to say I don't want to fill it with $50,000 checks because it wouldn't take that much to get to 5 million. But I'll say this respectfully. Most people that write a $50,000 check may think that 8 to 10% interest is not a lot of money. Right? Oh, it's just not enough. Okay. But somebody that understands the implications of not paying any taxes on gains, there's a lot of people out there looking to park money so that they don't have to pay taxes on it and to protect it. And so when it's protected around this bond where it's debt, I'll say this loosely, that debt always gets paid unless the deal's over leveraged. But if it's not over leveraged, the debt will always be paid. And there are situations where LP investors don't get their money back. And so what we try to do was minimize the risk of an LP investor losing their money and also give some caveats around not paying taxes, doing good while doing good. Oh yeah, you're going to do good. And you're going to help us do good because we're providing an excellent service to people that need it. And so that's another one of my taglines, doing good while doing good. And that's what the whole story is about. Shane, you're muted.
Let's try that. I appreciate it. I love that story. Doing good while doing good. There's a friend in the community, and one of his sayings is, you can't help people with $1, right? Unless you're making money and talking dollars, right? Big accounts, you can't change the world. You can't have an influence. You might be able to get one house and change one family, and that's great. But to doing what you're doing, you're helping hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds and thousands.
if we have 20,000 units by the, in the next 6 years, hundreds of thousands will go through those doors. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Hats off to you, sir. That's amazing. So how
Well-
did you? No, go ahead.
No, I said I appreciate you.
So how does that? You are talking numbers that have more zeros than the deals that we usually talk. So I'm excited about hearing how you do that. So when you talk about putting together money for a project that's, you're going into these public housing developments and say, hey, we're going to, we want to put in 400 units in your place. How does that process start? What does it look like? Is it start with the 501c, the nonprofit group? That's kind of where you start?
No, we start by creating value in every step. Okay. So that deal in Princeton, I would not buy that again because we paid $7.5 million for the dirt. And
Okay.
what I learned after the next two is that those guys paid $2 million for 100 acres.
Oh yeah. That's a big price difference. Yeah.
And then they spent $700,000-800,000 getting the engineering done. They spent a couple $100,000 moisturizing some pads, and they sold it to me for $7.5 million. So on our second deal, we went and bought the dirt ourselves. The deal in Mansfield, we paid $800,000 for 8 acres. We got the seller to carry a 25% second, and I got a first mortgage. So we put down just closing costs. We've carried the interest on that for about a year. So $5,000 a month, $60,000. It costs us $200,000 for the engineer and the architect to get all of the grading, to get all the civil engineering done for the plats. And with that $200,000, we have turned this $800,000 piece of dirt in about $4.5 million, with 91 entitled for 91 townhome lots, and those lots are worth $50,000 a piece.
And then if you wanted to, you could take that lot then and sell it to another developer.
I could sell it for $4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Take it and use that $4.5 million or $3.5 million as equity into the next phase of the project, which would be the horizontal improvements.
Oh.
So now it's going to cost me $4 million in horizontal improvements to do that. Now, what is this going to be worth when that part of it is done? So I've already got $4.5 million value. So I've got call it $3.5 million in improvements because that's my real number. So now I go borrow $3.5 million against this $4.5 million project, phased out, but the subject to value of that when it's completed is $7.5 million.
Oh.
So now $7.5 million created, and all we spent was $300,000. And now take each one of those lots for those townhomes and take those townhomes and go, well, let's build 5 of them at a time, $220,000 a piece plus the lot. And that's call it $280,000 per townhome, but the value of it's $500,000. So I can get 100% financing on the construction of that townhome now. And so we've created value through every step of the process to where the only time we have money outlay is on the beginning of these deals, paying the engineers, architects, and et cetera, and some carry. But when you get to the other side of the entitlement process, you have created 100 times value at minimum. 800,000 to $4.5 million. Not 100, but enough.
Those are, and again, that process that we do on single family homes, right? So we do a lot of rehab work, and we're doing that same thing, the same concept. You just have a lot more zeros behind it and a whole lot more science, right? There's definitely putting that team together of having the right architects, and building that team is key.
That has been key. And I'll tell you, another one of my favorite statements is methods are many, principles are few. The methods always change, but the principles never do. They're all the same. So the same principles that you use on a single family home for creative financing for the subject to is the same thing we do on this. It's the same thing in getting the guy to take a second mortgage on the purchase of that land. Same thing in going and talk to the architect if you don't have the 200,000 and say, hey man, you got some skills I need. You need 200,000. How about if I pay you 350 on the backside of this entitlement process? And he'll go, absolutely, right? And now you haven't spent any money and you got him to do that part for free, not for free, but for a premium. He's excited. He's going to get it done super fast now because he's making twice as much money as he thought he was going to make. And it didn't cost you any more money because you're just going to use equity to pay for it.
And again, it's more dry for him because sooner he gets the project done, the sooner he gets paid, right?
That's right. And then we offer him, hey, we'll pay you 200. And if you want to leave your 150 in as equity, guess what? It'll make you even a little bit more money.
I like that. I wish I would have known you 6 months ago. We came across a couple of land deals in Dallas area. I didn't know what to do with. There were 2 development opportunities. One not too far outside of Frisco.
That probably would have been a really good one.
Yeah.
You know, the hardest part of this for me is because I have spent so many years on the backside of the Rolodex is raising money. You know, you guys have put together a nice group, and group economics come with the group. The more of this that you do, you build confidence with your group members. And if you wanted to raise $1 million, you got 20 people in here with $50,000, it's no problem, right? That's the part that I have not done yet, which is why I love Cindy calling me and saying, hey, I want to talk to our group. Absolutely. Because I can share something that may help you guys, but you guys may want to get together a $5 million fund and do a fund to fund with one of our projects.
Absolutely.
I'm in affordable housing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. So Shane and I, and we have another partner, we just recently bought a mobile home park. Okay. And we're obviously doing it a little bit different. We're not developing, but we're trying to, it is affordable housing. Did you work with Section 8 and say, hey, I have all these new units? How did you go about doing that?
There used to be a thing that HUD called as a project-based voucher.
Yeah.
They don't give out anymore. They used to say, oh, you got a project with 200 units. Here, man, here's 150 vouchers to fill up your units. And that didn't work well because it tied people into projects. Mm-hmm. And the projects became projects and the people couldn't leave because they couldn't take their voucher. So HUD wanted to get out of that business and they passed all of those vouchers off to the local housing authorities. So the local housing authorities now issue out Section 8 vouchers to the recipient. And that recipient has the ability to take that voucher anywhere they want to go. That's why they move and they take their voucher and go with them. Mm-hmm. Okay. The other side of that is that for new units, new or rehab, if the local housing authority in any city has the capacity and the ability under HUD to allocate up to 25% of their vouchers to any one development. Now, will they? If, some of these small cities like Farmersville, they got 250 something units in Farmersville. That's not a lot. So how many vouchers do they have? 40, 50 vouchers maybe? They're not going to give all their vouchers to one developer. They'll give them to 200 people, or they'll give them that way, right? Now you come to a Dallas, not a chance. But another emerging city, like maybe Atlanta, or like maybe a Princeton, or just a smaller city that's growing and that maybe they got more allocation than they have units. Mm-hmm. They may be willing to say, here's 25 Section 8 vouchers for your development. And so the sales pitch is, y'all don't have any great housing around here. We have the nicest, newest, or the most rehabbed facility in town because you only got 200 units here or whatever in that small town. And wouldn't you want to live here? And then if you get lucky, somebody that wants to see what you're doing, show them some pictures. And if they think if you have the excess vouchers, then at least you're in the door because you presented a project that can really help them move some of their vouchers. Because if they don't use them, they lose them too.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay. Because we had a few,
So-
we had one the other day asked if we had section, I mean, we just bought the park, so we had one that just asked. So we have to just do some research, but I know, I mean, it's something that we should, you know, look into and get people that have section 8.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it is, we're in, our park is in Oklahoma. It's halfway between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So.
I would put an ad in a Thrifty Nickel. We accept Section 8 vouchers.
Yeah,
Be ready for your phone to ring.
good. That's what we want. Yeah. Thanks, Lucy.
That's right. So, what else? I think, what I want to talk about the negative connotations around the Section 8 voucher really quickly, just saying that most people, not everybody, not most, some people will do whatever you allow them to do. Hence, if you don't check on them, then that's your fault.
You're right.
It's not because they have a Section 8 voucher that they tore your place up. It's because you didn't do your job in checking on them. So if you put in some real strict guidelines around occupancy or tenancy, who can live with them and who can't, how long unauthorized guests can stay, go by your place every 30 to 40 days and change the AC filter on the inside so it gives you a bird's eye view of what's going on inside your place. And if they know you're coming by every 30 or 45 days, you'll never have a problem with that tenant. That's what we found out in dealing with that demographic. I say that demographic of resident that has never owned a home, that is really economically challenged. There's so many other problems that go on in the household. You know, when we're doing this housing stuff, we're not only meeting people at their best place, but we're also dealing with them in their worst place.
Yeah.
You know, there's some traumatic things going on in people's homes, and that's where we cry ourselves to sleep every night. That's where the kids get whipped and beat, and that's where everything that could go wrong at home happens. So imagine having a home that didn't have enough food in it. Imagine a home, you know, some of our developments in Dallas that cater to the low income community, 40% of those residents don't have any furniture. I mean, they may have just mattresses and a TV, and you've got kids growing up like that. So just imagine just changing that dynamic of what it can do to that family. And just because they live that way with not any things, many times they don't know how to take care of a home. Many times they don't know what a thermostat does. We take that stuff for granted. But if they grew up like that, and now that girl is 18, 19 years old with 2 kids, and now she got her voucher, nobody's taught her to work an oven, a thermostat, a shower head, and we take those little things for granted. So you wonder, why are the little plugs for the tub, and why are they gone? And why are the racks out of the oven? Because they were drying their tennis shoes in there. They, you know, that because that's just what happened. And so when you know that, and you keep an eye on your place, and we've even started doing videos for our residents just for that. From the front door, this is the keyless entry. From the keyless entry, here's your thermostat. Here's how you work your oven. This is how you work your refrigerator, ice maker, if there is one. All the things that we take for granted, you'd be surprised at how much it helps a resident that has never had any of those things. And that prevents a lot of the damages that we see in our units. Most of the damage is just negligence, or I didn't know that's how that worked. Oh, really? But now you know. And so I just wanted to remove the thought process around those people, around, you know, just all people with Section 8 vouchers tear your place up, because that is. Want to definitely drive home the area median income place when you're looking at, affordable. I don't care what it is. If it is a mobile home park, if it is a single family home, if it is in a small unit complex, just know your market, know your avatar, know your resident. One of my mentors tells me, Alvin, you have to know your employee, you have to know your associates. And if you know your associates, you can put them in the best seat for them to succeed. Same thing, we have to know our resident. And if we know that this general vicinity within 1 mile has an area median income of 25,000, then you kind of know what kind of residents you're going to get in that market. And just either accept it or don't accept it, be prepared for it. And if you've got systems and processes in place for management, then you won't have any problem.
Wise advice. I appreciate that. How
Nope.
we're full of a community of givers,
Mhm.
and people want to know how. You've just given us an hour of your time, some great gems. What can we do to help you out?
Pass the word. Alvin Hope Johnson is looking for 300 million. But that sounds
All right.
crazy. Our deal in Kakana is 55 million.
Yeah.
There's somebody that would that. The money's protected. I mean, we got a contractor been in business 75 years. They give us a max price guarantee. They give us a completion certificate and a performance bond. So the project will get delivered. We have a market study that says if we build it, will they come? Well, they needed 300 units in that little city. We're providing 185 of them, and it shows the absorption rate within 24 months. So when we stack all of the data points and all the protection mechanisms for somebody that can write a check, why wouldn't they buy a set of bonds that would allow them to make money interest-free? I mean, tax-free. And so when I say 300 million, that's only about 4 developments, and it could be 5 million, 10 million, 15 million at a time. And somebody knows somebody that's in an institutional position that has the authority and the power and the desire to want to do good while doing good.
Absolutely. How many projects do you have in the works besides what we currently have going on? What do you have in the vision what in the 6-12 months from now? Or longer?
We'll get our refi done in August. We'll close on our Wisconsin deal somewhere mid-July to late August, same time frame. So those 2 projects will be about 105 million in development going rehab and new construction. We're starting the dirt work for our Princeton project Monday. We're closing on that. It's about an $8 million loan. We're closing on that on Thursday or Friday or Monday. I am consulting with several other people that have developments going on. That one guy has 81 acres in Bloomington, Illinois. He watched all my YouTube videos one day and came to one of our events last year and said, Alvin, man, I've taken all your videos and did just what you did, and now I'm at a place where I need some help. Oh, well, great. If you took all my videos and got into a position where you've got land under contract with no money, you've got the city willing to give you this and do that, then I stepped in to help him. And so we are consulting with him now on those 81 acres, right next door to a Rivian car plant. So they are going to, we just had a meeting today with the city about annexing his site into the city. So we're working out all the developer agreements and all of that stuff. And this guy bought 81 acres for 1.5 million. Okay. When all these entitlements are done for 800 units and 15 acres of commercial, I'm gonna just give you let's see, 800. Just the 800 units at 25,000 a key is that much in value. From $2 million.
Yeah.
Taking them a year to do that, and we're doing all of that without any money up. Well, we paid the engineer $50,000. My architect consultant, I think his fee was $10,000. Couple other consultants. He's probably got about 150, 200,000 in this project to date. And after this annexation is done, the entitlements will be complete, and literally within 8 months, turn this piece of paper into a $20 million value, and he can go sell it. But he wants to build the 800 units. So I'm helping him with that. I'm consulting on another deal and 2 deals in Florida. So what we've done with our nonprofit is it's Hope Housing Foundation. And as of probably July, end of July, we will no longer have employees of the 501c3. I won't have a job there. None of my team will anymore. I will be the president by appointment of the board. And what we have done is we have gone to a consulting company model. So now our developer or consultant agreement that we will put in place with the nonprofit is that we put together deals like we just talked about, a fully baked cake with all the ingredients, and we walk it before the board of the nonprofit and say, hey, here's a 200 unit deal and all the parameters. Would you like to own it? Of course, the C3 will say, yes, we'd love to do that. We can earn a portion of the developer fee throughout the project. We can, and they're just all kind of things that we can do better as a consulting company versus employee 3. And so that's our new business model that will go forward. And so we're looking for more consulting clients. I want to help more people get their feet wet. I want to help more people put some units on the ground. Remember, I need 20,000 units, and the only way I'm going to get it is by doing a lot more of that. So
you're saying we all have a homework assignment. We all need to go watch your YouTube channel and watch the video series and get out there and start looking for you, as well as find your $300 million.
Yeah.
All right. We'll put people on it.
It's again, methods are many, principles a few. Methods always change, but the principles don't. Mm-hmm. And so understanding how to buy something subject to, understanding how to buy something creatively with the seller carrying a second mortgage, all of those kind of creative things still hold true, especially in this environment, especially on the development side. Now, when you're getting into buying larger assets around affordable housing, most of those have low-income housing tax credits associated with them. You may need experience to buy those or to own those. That's another part of our platform that if you have an opportunity like that, call me. We have a sheet. We have the capacity, experience to be a GP or LP or whatever P we need to be in those light tech deals. We can do that. So group economics. And you may ask me, well, Alvin, if that's a nonprofit, how do we get paid if we partner with a nonprofit? Great question. Because a lot of these deals that are owned exclusively by a single member LLC, mm-hmm. that the 501c3 is the single member. The way we do that are through consulting fees and through profit sharing, cash flow participation. You got cash at the, you got all your waterfall of cash, and at the end of the day, there's a distribution allowed to the project owner. We share in those distribution proceeds with people all the time that bring us deals. You may bring us a deal, and you may want, go tell them what you want. Well, we can take some of it on the front end, possibly some of it through cash flow participation, possibly some of it on a reposition of the asset 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. There's so many ways to get there, but when there's somebody's willing, there's always a way.
So I have seen some opportunities come across my desk where it's a multifamily unit. It's probably in an inner city area, mm-hmm. and either it's partly occupied but not mostly, or it's vacant and needing rehab. Are those things that you would take a look at if the numbers were right, or are those kind of rehab projects out of your?
And I'll give you some thoughts around that. I used to buy anything I could get financed. And now there are more reputational risk associated with something that doesn't go well.
Yes.
Right? And so on an inner city community, depending on what city it was in, I would definitely look at it if it was over 100 units. If it's totally vacant, it's probably gonna, I don't want to say this with surety, but the stuff I've seen a lot of stuff in Oklahoma and places like that that were totally vacant. And the squeeze, the amount of rehab necessary to get those online was not worth, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, right.
So it really depends. Every deal is a different deal, but yeah, we would love to look at, and especially if it's partly occupied, absolutely. And using our C3 bonds, we can get 100% leverage on acquisition rehab. We put no money down.
You're gonna have to tell me how that works, because that's amazing. It just like blows my mind that you can go.
I'll tell you how we do it. Now, it doesn't always work because it depends on the seller, but most of the time it will, because all we're going to do is take your NOI and we're going to come up with, and this is what we can pay for it. And then we have to spend $10,000 a unit minimum as rehab. So we're going to extract that from what we can pay for it. And here's your number. Take it or leave it. Done. 90% of the time, if it's a competitive process, I usually don't involve myself in those because I don't like to compete like that.
Right.
Because it's like at an auction, price keeps going up. Nope, I'm gonna draw a hard line in the sand, and if you don't like it, I'm out. There's always room for negotiation, but when I am negotiating from a place of strength around something that I know a lot about, affordable housing, and I know about the bonds, and I know how we can get there, I know what the rents are going to be when it's stabilized, then that gives me a little more bargaining power and a little more confidence to go in there and say, Shane, man, I don't care what you think. There's nobody else lined up to buy this junk. And you'll say, and then another caveat to that is, if I can't pay you what you think it's worth, then let's put together a deal that allows me to buy it, to reposition it, to rehab it, cash flow it. And then if we hit certain benchmarks, guess what? You get cash flow participation on the upside. So there's always a way to make it work.
Yeah, I said you just kind of work all those different creative strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we can't talk about dollars for today and come to an agreement, well, let's talk about tomorrow's dollars, right?
Right. If you believe this thing is worth all of that, I'll believe it with you. But this is the way we got it. But if we don't, then this is where we are. Then there's no cash flow. And we're not going to do it. I mean, we share financials, we get audits. So it's not like nobody's skimming money off the top, keeping rents or any of that kind of junk. It is what it is. And if there's cash flow at the end of the day, then there's cash flow participation for child sharing.
From beginning, so some of your projects that you're doing, from you're buying the dirt to you've got finished units, what kind of time frame is that? Is that like a 5-year process?
No, what I believe, buying dirt and getting the entitlements in place have averaged from 8 to 12 months.
Okay.
Texas to Wisconsin, about the same. I think it can be done a lot sooner because we worked on one project and I had the architect, the engineer, the mechanical contractors, everybody associated with design this thing on a Zoom call every day for 1 hour. So it's not like, oh, we'll meet on Mondays and then you do nothing until Sunday and then you catch up on Monday again. It's like, oh, well, I'm still behind. No, every day. And we designed, let me see if I can find my buildings and I'll show you what they look like. But we designed this 185 unit deal. We put it together in about 30 days.
All right.
Clearing the whole 9 yards. Then we ran it to the city and we got that part done in about 75 days. So it really just depends on the team and how quickly you want to move. Because if you let these architects and engineers take their time, they're getting paid. They'd rather have 10 clients that pay them $500,000 a year than getting done with one at one time and getting them out of the way. Nobody wants to work. Sorry about that. I didn't want to say it that way, but sometimes that's how.
And I'm sure there's been certain cities or municipalities that you've worked with that have been a blessing and a nightmare, right? Each of them come with their own stories, I'm sure.
They have, but we really haven't had any nightmare stories.
Good.
We focusing on small town America, focusing on where they're celebrating you versus tolerating you. Makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you walk in the house and your significant other's saying, damn, he's home again. You know,
It's a world of difference,
so,
yeah.
It is a big difference. And on that planning call today with the city of Bloomington, Illinois, this is what we want. You know, we want this depth of concrete for the streets. But if we determine through a traffic study that we need more, you'll pay for this much and we'll pay for the difference. Not you got to eat it. That's somebody that is actually wanting development. They've got 5-foot sidewalks spec'd. And I said, well, you know, that's really great. But in a lot of these newer communities, what we're seeing is we're seeing 8-foot wide sidewalks so that you can have traffic going both ways. You got people riding bicycles. You got, you know, they're making these walking communities. So with an 8-foot wide sidewalk, it just promotes that kind of activity on your main thoroughfares. And she said, great idea. We'll pay for 3 feet of it if you'll pay for the 5. Great. And so all of these little things that cities that really want what they say they want, they have the capacity to help, especially when they've got a market where the area median income is super, you know, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a piece.
And they want to track more of that money in as well. So they want the head count and the people and the income coming into those towns. So
well, you know, Rivian just built a big plant there in Bloomington. They can't get any workers there because they do not have any housing. People can't move there. There's nowhere for anybody to live. And that was true in Laverne, Minnesota. We did a 54-unit deal there. This little town had 5,000 people. Their market study said they needed 90 units. I mean, that sounds like, okay, we did 54 units there. And from the time we started pushing dirt, we got that one done in like 6 months, entitlements and everything, because they wanted it. And by the time we started pushing dirt, we had tenants, we had 100 people that already called from the sign saying, how do I sign up? And I don't know where, nobody knew where these people were coming from. This is a town of 5,000 people. And so it's, you know, they say we've got a housing crisis going on. If we build it, will they come? We haven't seen where they won't come. And, you know, focusing on the affordable component, we're not driving rents to $250, $3 a foot. Of course, we'd love to get that because our insurance went up 300% this year, literally in coastal markets. And you can't take your rent up. So you just got to figure out how to pay for it. Literally, just figure out how to pay for it and watch your rents go up as you can. Because we got a budget that property's making, you know, $300,000 a year, little 100-unit property, net in about $380 after everything's paid, and then your insurance goes up from $76,000 to $240.
Wow.
Yeah, how do you pay for
it? And I've heard that in some of these coastal towns.
It's a nightmare.
Insurance has been deal breakers. Yeah.
And it's happening to everybody. So, and it's not just, and I think another crazy part about this is, you know, on that $55 million development, we would buy $55 million worth of insurance. We would buy wind coverage up to $10 million in case all the roofs blew off. Well, nowadays you can't buy but half of the limits for 300% of the cost. Nope, you can't insure the whole $55 million because the chances of all those units burning down at one time are slim to none. So we're not going to give you that capacity. We have to keep that capacity for the market for somebody else. But the prices went up 300%. Deal with it. And so even the lenders have had to take, because they typically would say, hey, if you got $100,000 house, you need $100,000 worth of coverage. Well, you got a $100 million building, you need $100 million worth of coverage. And the lenders are having to redo everything to allow for a shortfall of insurance coverage. And we're all praying that, we're literally all praying Maybe we can get 2 years worth. I say 2 years worth of reprieve would be super awesome. But what we're seeing every time you turn the news on, we had baseball sized hail come through Cedar Hill last night. You've got wildfires burning out west. You've got floods going on out east. You've got hurricanes blowing through the Midwest. And so somebody's always experiencing something that's making our insurance go up. And I don't know if that's global warming or if Jesus is coming back tomorrow or what's going on, or what's happening. But, whatever you believe. But I can tell you our insurance is going up.
Yeah, the whole time I spent living in that Dallas area, I've seen some crazy weather. Like you said, baseball size hail. Luckily, knock on wood, I didn't experience it at my own personal residence, but friends of mine have. So
I was at home last night, sitting outside. It was sprinkling all around. And I was sitting out by the pool and I saw the light show, the lightning. I was like, man, this is so beautiful. And then I saw both of my phones went nuts, like severe thunderstorm warnings in the area, baseball size hail. And I'm like, we've never had that, so we're good. And then I started hearing ding, ding on my neighbor's house. And man, before I knew it, probably about the size of a baseball came through my my patio cover. I said, well, it's time for me to go in.
yeah,
I've never experienced. That's probably like an earthquake. I don't know. You just can't get away from that kind of stuff.
So you have hail that'll punch a hole right through your roof, right? That's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna show you guys the presentation real quick. 1 second. I have to email it to myself because my VPN won't allow me to be great by using my Zoom link. So that's why I have my computer on and my phone on, because in order to get to my docs, I have to use my VPN for the office, and I'm using I don't know, it's just crazy over here. But anyway, 1 second and I can get back to this. Okay, now I can open up my Gmail.
Well, Alvin's pulling that up. I just want to say thanks for everybody for showing up tonight and hearing what we have to say. And it's always great to see some of the same familiar faces. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to share with your community. I'm the old man in the room now, and I'll tell you, this old man told me a long time ago. He said, Alvin, if you didn't have it, then you need to become it for somebody else, but somebody else is in the same position you were in. And so I don't take that lightly. And anytime I have an opportunity to do something like this, then it means the world to me. So for that. All right, let's try to share. Shane, can you give me the sharing ability?
Let's see. If I look at you should have host
Disabled participant sharing. So I think you have to hit to the kind of right side of that green thing.
Maybe try that.
Okay, let's see. There we go.
Perfect.
So this is our OM for our deal in Kaukauna, Wisconsin. This is a 4-story property, elevator served, 2 buildings, 178 living units and 6 offices. And so it doesn't look like workforce housing, does it?
It looks beautiful.
It does. I can't wait for it to and so when we put these things together, 2 buildings, 185 units, 3.397 acres. It's got underground parking. So I mean, this is like, this little city hadn't had a new development in 20 plus years. They gave us the best site in the city to build this. So coming across this little bridge where my mouse is comes into Kaukauna. So right here on the corner of the building, we've got a big old sign that says "Welcome to Kaukauna," and the city like that. And man, just having an opportunity to do something like this is really has really been great.
So
And
Alvin,
so then
you said something there that kind of caught my eye. So you're saying you picked this market first, not the property. The property came second. The city gave you that location?
Well, they did. This particular deal came about because there was another developer that had acquired almost, we bought one other piece of land right here for that, but this other developer had acquired these 2 sites. He was going to put a 100-room hotel and a 100-unit apartment complex on those 3 acres.
Got it.
And he couldn't get it financed. And the contractor that we're using in Texas said, "Alvin, man, we've got a really great relationship with the city of Kaukauna, because Kaukauna and Appleton, Wisconsin are just like Plano and Frisco, right next to each other."
Right.
So they said, "Do you want it? We can get it for you." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it, man. We can get it financed." I didn't know if I can get this thing financed or not, but when there's a commitment, you figure it out. And that's the other side of that, right?
Right.
So they the city gave us a 10-year, 1% interest loan for $1 million to buy this site from that guy for $1 million that bought it from them for $1. Now, he probably spent $500,000 on plans and engineering and all that stuff, but he still had a nice payday. And so we took it over and said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so that's what we're doing. Excited about it. And so here on these OMs, I usually do something like this and just give a little blurb about the project. I include hot links for Dropbox link, so that if somebody is very interested or just not very interested, just kind of interested, you don't have to look too hard to get to pictures. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, that was my pictures. Here's my appraisal, our lender letter commitment, current loan sizing. See what that looks like. So I can show you guys how this. Aha. I think this is not. Yeah, here it is. 54 million. 35 million for construction, 2 million for FF&E, $2 million contingency. So right at 40 million bucks. I got a $2.5 million developer fee on this. We got 750,000 that we'll pay ourselves as a consulting fee. We've got capitalized interest here of $5.8 million that'll get us through the construction period and through the lease up period. We got a debt service reserve fund so that after it's built that we got, $1.5 million in debt service reserve, issuer fees and all of that. Total stack $1.5 million. That's because we paid $1 million for the lot plus some other junk. And the way we will do it, we've got 46 million worth of bonds. We've got 5 million in a B bond, and then we've got 3 million in equity from sponsor funds. We raised that. I put my PPM together for 10 million. They would close it with as little as 5. The reason I did it for 10, this is 54 million. We don't want to get to the table and I need an extra $500,000 and I don't have enough money.
Right.
Don't want to do that. And so this is how this works. Look at the value of this thing in year 7, 71 million. That's assuming a 5.75 cap rate. 71 million. How much money do we have in this?
That's
We
awesome.
financed 50, Yeah, we financed 54 million. We'll get cash flow for forever. And in 7 years, we'll refinance this thing, maybe, depending on what the rates are, depending on what the cap rates are. 40-year debt at 6.75% interest rate. Sorry, 6.35. So will we refinance it? Maybe, maybe not.
So this deal here is currently funded 100%.
Nope, we got to get the 5 million in equity.
You still need 5.
Yeah, I'm waiting on my bond docs from my attorney so that this is the PPM or OM that I put together for it. Look at the cash flow year one, 378,000 on 185 units. That's net after all the sinking funds and everything. And year one, my break-even occupancy is 98%. Year 7 break-even is 87%. I think we'll hit that, so I'm not worried about it.
So
let's see.
Again, that kind of goes back to my question I had is, as far as investors, they're working with you, but they're looking at a 7 to 10 year time commitment. Is that correct?
No, I would say 3 to 5. Because what happens after it's built in 18 months, we've got a stabilization period up to 30 months. We've got 3 years worth of debt service built into it. And so somewhere after year 3, our placement agent will start looking to sell that last tranche of bonds. So it's been, those bonds are aged, the payments have been made on time because we've escrowed them. So guess what? You've got a perfect credit rating. And that's essentially all that's what they do. They age the bonds by payment. And so now that allows us to get up to, and I say us, the bond placement agent will probably, depending on the rate we settle with the investor, you see, I put 8 to 12% here. The reason I put 8 to 12, I may have a guy that comes in and say, Alvin, I write you the $10 million check, but I need 12%. Done. Mm-hmm. And so in order for us to compensate for that 12% rate that he's got, we may have to sell those bonds at 103 to break even. And so then whenever that market is right, that's when 100%, when those bonds are sold, 100% of the investment comes out, and everything that you've made from that point backwards is exempted from your income tax.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a huge benefit.
Huge benefit.
Yeah.
And so the way I can document that is click on that link, and that link will bring you over to just a one-pager that I took out of our bond documents that shows tax exemption of bond interest. Section 103 of the code provides that interest on fully registered qualified bonds issued by the corporation to finance residential rental projects is excludable from the gross income of the bondholders if at least 95% of the proceeds of the issue are used to provide qualified residential rental housing. The required percentage of units in the project will be occupied individuals with low income with the meaning and for the period as specified in Section 142D of the code, and 3, if other applicable requirements of Section 141 are met. That's where 95% of the proceeds are used in the project. That gives us a 5% margin to pay referral fees and et cetera. I have to be careful with this. We're not paying unlicensed people for raising capital for us, but there are consulting agreements and things like that we can put in place for helping to bring some of that capital to the table so that we meet that 95% threshold. The requirement of percentage of units, well, Kakana has 25% of the units at market, 50% of them are at 80, and 25% at 60. There's one other thing I'm gonna try to show you guys really quickly before we dip out and show you what that means. And then here's certain income brackets. The city gave us $4.5 million in TIF on this. Tax incremental financing. They said, hey man, if you guys will build this, we'll give you $4.5 million to help with the construction. That's almost 10% of the equity. And we took it, and I should not have. $4.5 million sounds great. Mm-hmm. but it precludes me or prevents me from asking for a property tax exemption forever, which
Oh,
600,000 a year in property taxes forever means a whole lot more than 4.5 million on the front end. And here's a deal about our market, our contract and our market study. So I put all those hot links in there. So, you know, for somebody that's interested, they can look at it. Here's the executive summary of the property. 3 years is typically stabilization. And then we're looking for a place to sell the bonds right after then. Here's a market demand. Here's the building again. That's a really good looking building. I love that. Here are rent comps, average about $1.90 a square foot. There's up to $2.45 a square foot. And none of this stuff is new. So that's a 7-bedroom. Nobody's gonna rent that. We're not. Let me see what else I can show real quick to get. Here's just some of the amenities. Cash flow. I want to show this in it. This is the debt service pro forma. Comparable properties in the area. We just put it all out there. And so Appleton, Wisconsin, project location, project overview. Here's a site plan, floor plan of the building itself with all the individual units. Property differentiators, energy equity, renewable energy. I mean, all the stuff that sounds good for ESG investing. Going to be high performance construction, unit amenities. That's the actual building right there. And then we got Dreamville across the top. We have branded all of our new buildings Dreamville. So this one's Dreamville of Kaukauna. We got Dreamville on Monticello in Princeton. We got Dreamville on Sao Paulo in Anna. Because this was a dream for me to build these apartments, and everybody loves to sleep and have a beautiful dream. So let's call it Dreamville. And so that's how we came up with that name. Yeah, this is the way it looks, Dreamville across the top. Here's our current project. So this is a Princeton dirt. This is not that building the way it's going to look. We've redesigned that since then. Here's our Mansfield project with the 91 townhomes. It started out at 103. They wanted some more green space. So that's how those things are going to look, 3-story townhomes. Here's our Anna building. It says 250 units. That came down to 204 after entitlements. But we've got some rooftop. Oh, come on, Alvin.
Yeah.
We've got some amenities on this building that we're going to put up here. So here's a little
nice
area for a bar. And so here's a pergola with solar panels and et cetera, and hangout space all around the roof. And this little green area over here is for the dogs to hang out. And so it's really cool. We did that. And then here's some information about our construction company. And this is the work that they currently are working on right now. So I picked a company, again, 75 years old. This is all they do. So I'm giving them a comparable project to build. So it's not too far out of their realm of possibility of getting it built. And man, when you can just stack a deck like that, literally all we did was just stack the deck with all the pieces to make this look good for everybody. And
so if we wanted
just stack the deck.
Please go ahead.
And that's it.
So if we have people that want to look at those OMs, how do we find them?
Shoot me an email. I'll tell you what you can do. Shoot me an email, and what I would do is I would direct you to our website, hopehousingfoundation.org. We have a link there for our portal, and you can go into our portal, and it'll ask you to sign up, and then me or Peggy in my office will approve that, and then you have access to it.
I know Cindy posted it in our Facebook group today prior to this meeting, but let me see if I can't just run over there and snatch it, and I'll drop it in the notes.
The website, hopehousingfoundation.org. And my email is alvin@372hope.org.
hopehousingfoundation.org.
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go. And your email, sir?
alvin@372hope.org.
Come on now. There it goes. Perfect. I appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Well, again, I appreciate your time.
Man, it's been my pleasure, really. I see all the nice comments in the chat. Thank you all for showing up. And for everybody that's going to watch this recording later.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. And Shane, if you would, once you record it, or once you get the notification that it has downloaded, if you don't mind sharing it, I'd love to put it on my YouTube as well.
Absolutely. I'll definitely share that with you. And again, I
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
We'll definitely like to hear from you again and see how some of these deals are closing out. And hopefully we can find you some money as well. I'm going to post out there that my friend Alvin's looking for 300 million.
Man, that would be wonderful, really.
Yeah.
And if there's anything I can help you with, or anybody in the group, just reach out to me, man. Anything I can do to assist.
I appreciate that. Thank you again. And thank you everybody for showing up tonight.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, good night.